All right, I have a question for you. Does Rey bring balance to the Force at the end of episode 9? Here's the answer. No. I have seen this argument online, though, and there are two versions of the argument. One claiming that Anakin does bring balance at the end of Return of the Jedi, but then Rey also brings balance at the end of Rise of Skywalker. But one wonders why balance needs to be restored if it was already restored. What would the word balance even mean in that context?
That's not how the Force works.
And does it mean that another clone of Palpatine will return in a few years, forcing Rey or some new Jedi that she trained to restore balance yet again? And then again? And then again? And then again? But there's another version of this argument. It claims that the Force was still imbalanced after Return of the Jedi. This argument goes something like this. Luke chooses light against dark. He does not balance the two. He rejects the darkness. But Rey doesn't do that. Rey never needed training, which is a good thing because it means that she wasn't polluted by the dogmas of either the Jedi or the Sith. She is light-sided in the sense that she's caring and she fights for her friends, but she's dark-sided in the sense that she's willing to kill her enemies and she fights with a fury. But that's just a sign that she's in a healthy relationship with her emotions. Okay, this might make sense on first glance. It might seem that the Jedi repress their emotions while the Sith give in to them entirely, and that a healthy human being should land somewhere in the middle. Well, there's a big problem with this argument.
To be angry is to be human.
I'm a Jedi. I know I'm better than this.
Becoming a Jedi is not a metaphor for becoming a human. It's a metaphor for becoming something more than human. Becoming a Jedi is an alchemical process in the sense that it's about transforming spiritual lead into spiritual gold. It's about the soul's development from the mundane to the divine. And if you think this sounds esoteric, well, Star Wars is esoteric. It engages explicitly with a long tradition of what we can broadly call magic. Within that ancient tradition, the dichotomy between white and black magic, or the right-hand path and the left-hand path, is universal. Just about every indigenous society on this planet has a magic system with this polarity. It's a basic framework for understanding magic. And although this framework is timeless, I've never found a clearer expression of it than the one in a book called The Law of One, wherein a teacher calling itself Ra explains that there are only two paths for a human soul to evolve into something beyond the human. There's the path of service to others, and there's the path of service to self. Both of these paths are legitimate, but there is no way to ascend to divinity without polarizing one way or the other. Ra explains that the gateway to intelligent infinity is to be found at the end of a straight and narrow path, as you might call it. To attain 51% dedication to the welfare of other selves is as difficult as attaining a grade of 5% dedication to other selves. The, shall we say, sinkhole of indifference is between those two. Now, I love that phrase, the sinkhole of indifference. But the reason I bring this quote to your attention is that Ra gets deliciously specific here. To ascend along the dark path, according to Ra, you must spend 95% of your energy serving yourself. To ascend along the light path, you must spend 49% of your energy serving yourself. Now, to me, a 49-51 split sounds something like balance. Thus, we can say the right-hand path is about balance. And by the way, this is exactly how the Force works in Star Wars. What evidence do I have of that? Well, let's go back right to the beginning when Obi-Wan tells Luke how the Force works.
Remember, a Jedi can feel the Force flowing through him.
You mean it controls your actions?
Partially, but it also obeys your commands.
From the perspective of the light side, the Force does two things. It forces us and is forced by us. The light path, in other words, seeks this balance between yin-yang energies, whereas the dark side rejects this balance and works purely with yang energy.
Make things the way we want them to be.
The meditation, I always did it really tense. Like, you know, it was just balled up in fists of fury and white knuckles. And after a while, the director's like, you know, we've done this scene 4 times and you've done it different, But the meditation, why are you playing it so tense? The meditation, you're so tense in the meditation. And I said, he doesn't know how to meditate. The director's like, what? He's a Sith. He thinks this is how you do it. And you force the pieces together because this is my job. The Force belongs to me. So I was like, Vader would never have taught him how to find inner peace. He would have taught him to do the opposite.
So when Luke decides not to kill Vader, it's not because he's out of balance, that he refuses to give an inch to the darkness within him. Rather, it's because he has brought these two parts of himself into unity. His costume here gives us a clue. He finds the light within the darkness. Moreover, Luke is the one who is freed from the dogmas of the Jedi and the Sith, not Rey. Obi-Wan in the prequels was a dogmatic Jedi. He learned from his mistakes, and he introduced Luke to the Force in a far more personal and idiosyncratic way than the cult of the Jedi Order ever could.
You refer to the prophecy of the one who will bring balance to the Force.
It's so strange to me that the Jedi have this prophecy, and yet they don't seem to realize that that means the Force is out of balance. After all, the return of the Sith was a surprise to the Jedi. The Jedi should have realized that the source of this imbalance lied within them. To quote Ra again, the best way for each seeker to be of service to others is unique to that mind-body-spirit complex. This means that the mind-body-spirit complex must then seek within itself the intelligence of its own discernment as to the way it may best serve other selves. This will be different for each. There is no best. There is no generalization. Nothing is known. And this is exactly what the Jedi in the prequels failed to embrace. The cult of the Jedi Order mass-produced Jedi, just like their mirror image, the cloners on Kamino. The Jedi are ambassadors for the Chancellor. They are military leaders. They are a political entity within the Republic. It's pretty obvious to me, the Jedi are out of balance. They have lost sight of the light side. In this sense, it will always be Anakin, the one who destroyed the dogma of the Jedi Order, and ended the legacy of the Sith, who leveled the playing field, and thus created an opening in which his son was free to begin a more compassionate Jedi Order, which is finally, properly balanced. It will always be Anakin who brought balance to the Force. So to conclude, Rey does not bring balance to the Force. She merely falls into the sinkhole of indifference between the two paths. Thanks for listening. I'm Josh from Xbox Live. Check out my other videos. Have a good day.